Doing it for the love, so now I'm doing what I want. For the love of the shit. Doing it for the love, so now I'm doing what I want. For the love of the shit. Hip hop and rap, yeah, that's where my heart's at.
What's up, everybody? Tony Jigsaw Cotillo here. Fancy Firebox episode 33. Got my man John Coker back tonight. We got the handicapping queen, okay, Miss Anne Shorr, back tonight to give you a free pick. Also talk about her premium picks. We're going to talk a little bit about NBA All-Star Weekend. Me and John are going to get into a Major League Baseball draft that happened, a little mock draft action. Talk about Juan Soto versus deGrom. Do you go pitcher? Do you go batter? We'll get into all of that. Adam, what is up, my man? How you doing? Checking in. But Ann, we're going to go right to you. Number one, okay, you've been traveling all over. You've been on fire. This is a perfect show for you tonight. Okay, call the Fantasy Firebox because you have been absolutely lit over the last couple days. I know you have something for us tonight. We'll get into later. But number one, I know you did a little bit out of your element. You did pretty well in NBA over the All-Star Game. What was that like? And number two, just how are you doing overall?
Well, thanks for asking. It's nice to be back home, kind of settled in right now for sure. So I always, guys, and just remember this for the future. With the NBA All-Star Game, they're going to have the starters in, and then you always see them take them out for the second half. So your best bet is to always take the over the first half. And it's funny because it started out a little slow. You saw Zion Williams, he missed like 2 dunks, and it was a little frustrating to watch. They weren't hitting those points, but I felt good that it hits every year. So one nice thing is with that first quarter, a lot of people were withdrawing their bets, or they were like changing it to the under. And then, what I did in that situation is I just kept pounding the over, and it did hit, it hit by 0.5 right at the end. It always goes over. So that's one of the bets I did. On the other hand, I had a lean towards I did not take it. I just, I told you, Tony, I just touched the total, but I was kind of hoping to see Kevin, the Team Durant come out and at least try to win, one of the quarters. So it was a little bit, not that great to see LeBron win every single quarter. I wanted them to win money for their charity as well.
Absolutely.
But come that second half, you see, and you have to remember too, it happened this year, it happened last year. It's first team to this, score wins, and this year it was 270. I don't remember the year before. I would have to look that up, maybe 290, I want to say, but it always gets cut off in that fourth quarter. So, which is why you never want to take the overall for the game hit. However, the live betting over at halftime did not hit. And so that's why you either go over for the first half. You can take the over for the for the whole game. But you have to remember that with these is they do cut it off at a certain amount in the fourth quarter. So last year, they cut it off and the over did not hit. So just to give you
that's what's interesting about it is, number one, you started off talking about the starters and the minutes, and that's something I was looking at 100%, trying to put a DFS showdown lineup in, because it's like, okay, I know guys are only going to play 25 minutes, maybe 20 minutes tops. So you have, number one, you have to make sure you pick the right studs, and number two, you got to also realize the bench guys aren't going to play that much. You want the closers. The guys are going to play in the fourth quarter. I know, you talked about Jason Tatum a little bit. He got hot in the point contest. But I'll tell you, did you think this year, because I've never seen the amount of betting for the NBA All-Star Game that I see this year. I think it was just like it went on another level this year. Like, I've never seen it this busy for the All-Star Game, especially something that guys aren't even playing for real sometimes. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy, yeah. And I think, people might have missed the NBA betting lately, or there was a lot of sportsbooks offering bonuses, but it's so funny. Like, people are looking at like not Kevin Durant, LeBron, he's 21.5 points, but he had 4 points for the whole game. Like, it's crazy. They're going to take out players. yeah, in the second half. And, I forget how many minutes LeBron played, but he only got 4 points. And I know. But overall, there's so much money on this because a lot of people, they're not into college football or college basketball. I think it scares them off. March Madness can get pretty hard for your public.
Yeah.
So I think that was the plus in that card that day. There wasn't really anything exciting or good. I think I only had one premium play that day. But the thing is the college basketball is, people rather get on the NBA. And I think I have to check those. You may know with the public. I think a lot of people were on Team Durant.
Yeah.
The line movement was interesting, so I would say a lot more were on Team Durant.
Yeah, you're definitely right with the over. And John, when we talk about the NBA at an All-Star game, like I did the first ever fantasy showdown line. I never done that for the NBA. And I thought it was interesting, right? And number one, we're going to get that to me last later because one of them guys is Zion Williamson, by the way, because he missed like 12 dunks. Like, I don't know how many dunks can you miss? Like, put some stick on your hands like the kid from Little Giants that couldn't catch the damn ball. I mean, do something. But John, have you ever seen the amount of excitement from a fantasy perspective when it comes to the NBA All-Star game?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think this year it was pumped up so much more because it was all on Sunday. They had the whole one-day event.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I typically do not watch the NBA All-Star game. I have no patience for the clowning around and all that stuff. Like, to me, just like you said, it's not even a game. It's more like a performance. It's like going to watch the Harlem Globetrotters. Like, okay, it's kind of cool, but I don't look at it as a game. So for me, I didn't really have any action going. I thought about doing it, and then I'm like, you know what? There's so many variables. Everything you guys touched on with, and with even the scoring in the first half and how the over/under plays in, and then, Tony, you touched on the bench and everything. It's like, there's just so many factors, and then time ran out. But I enjoy watching the skills competition. The 3-point, the dunk was so disappointing. Trying to cram it in at halftime.
You're so right. Let's just real fast before I have to, because it annoyed the hell out of me. Number one, what gives Josh Smith the right to be like the all-time judge? Like, he sucked. Like, okay, he won one contest, and then he screwed that poor kid. He screwed Cash. And that kid was a ridiculous dunk. And I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? And
I know.
I felt so bad, man. I did. I felt so bad. But Adam says 3-point contest was the best. I am a Steph Curry lover. I am.
Yeah.
I have a man crush on Steph Curry. Okay. And the kid, I say kid, he's 33 years old, but I mean, I'll tell you what, he's the best shooter that I think we will ever see. Number one that we've ever seen, but we will ever see, because nobody is better. And I don't know, Anne, did you take any action on 3-point contest?
I had Curry.
Oh, there you go.
Of course, yeah.
Of course, right? I mean,
and you look at the odds; it's like plus 115, and the next person up, I think it was like plus 400.
Yeah, it was
whatever.
Yeah, it was a huge difference. It was a huge difference. Now, is this the first time that you've bet on the NBA All-Star Weekend, or is that something you typically do?
Oh no, I've done. So this was the first year I did bet on some props. Like I did a couple props, and then I did the 3-pointer. But I take the total every year. This would be my 4th year doing this. Okay. So and like John, it's not. The weekend thing, I would only just wait until the All-Star game. I wouldn't do really anything else with the weekend. But they did talk it up a lot, so they needed those views and everything. Yeah.
They really did.
Viewership, especially just having it on one day.
I did enjoy it being on one day, but they had to do something different. Like even the skills competition, like some of those skills are ridiculous. Like I don't want, like, you know what I would like to say? Give me like a 3-on-3 blacktop game, like Ice Cube's league. Like just break it all out, man. Like you know what I mean? You watch those jump man contests with those kids, and they're unbelievable. Why can't we have that kind of competition? Like it's just such a shame, because I know I'm a little older. than you, Ann, and I know me and John are around the same age. But when we grew up watching that, man, listen, the slam dunk contest was on point. I mean, that was
Yeah.
when I waited up at Friday night. It was a Friday. It was Friday, right? They had the game for the rookie sophomore game, and then it was Saturday night. They had the skills, the 3-point, and the dunk contest, and then
Yep.
Sunday. It was a whole weekend.
Yep.
Right, and it
Yeah.
was live. It's such a shame. I think, unfortunately, it takes some luster away from it. But the 3-point contest, just so you know, shooters was definitely very good.
Well, and they got a bring. What was the arcade game where
NBA
it was?
Jam?
Is that Anthony Hardaway and Shaq?
Yes,
Like on the
That's
Magic,
one,
and
Yeah.
that's what it is. But you got to have teammates. I do it half court games.
I like
You got to
that.
have 2 all-star teammates, so you could have LeBron and Anthony Davis, whatever, pair them up,
Yeah.
get 2-on-2, just have 4 or 6 guys. Figure out. Yeah, I would love to see that.
You got the guys with the real big heads and the little bodies, and then you got one. You know what I mean? I used to love that game. Man. That game was
Nick
awesome.
and Spud Webb.
Oh yeah, that's right. And Spud
Both
Webb,
in-
by the way,
both in appearance.
was one of the judges too.
Yeah, they were.
So,
they both were.
Yeah,
Want to
they
do
were.
a half court shooting contest?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Dame and Steph were doing it during the All-Star game.
I
Why
know.
not? Right? I mean, listen. Why don't you just highlight what these guys do so well? You know that's what's great about it. But listen, there was only 2 games a night for the NBA.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. I don't think Memphis, San Antonio. I think it's Dallas, San Antonio is a late game, and Memphis, Washington. I think is the first.
Yeah. The first game is
Yeah.
Grizzlies and Wizards, and then
Right.
the second one is Spurs. Yep, you got it.
Now, Ann, I know you don't really do specific players much, but what I'll ask you is, I know like Washington's been 8-3 in their last 11. Russell
Yeah.
Westbrook, Bradley Beal have been on fire. Now, when you look and see that, does that gravitate you directly to that game in general when you see players just outperforming what they should?
Yeah, so I do like following trends. Like you said, they're 8-3, their last, I'm assuming ATS, the last 11. And what really draws me to the game is, I would say, if the players are on fire, because really, and it's the same with hockey and it's the same with baseball, is when a team goes hot, the players are hot, you need to follow them and not jump off. And I did that with the Nets, and it was like Nets got hot, and I just, they got their beautiful pick over there. And so once things started changing around for the Nets, I jumped on them and, I rode them for like 9 straight on the spread, and it was beautiful. And you just take that team until they're not hot, and then you jump off. But it's just same with hockey, and same with hockey, same for baseball, and you apply it for basketball as well. When the team is hot, you continue to ride them until you get your loss. And and we can talk later down the line about NFL. There's a little bit different strategy with that.
I can't wait.
There's a little bit of a different strategy, but so if you got some of these teams and these players, they're just putting up way above average and they're winning. You can look at their schedule and just kind of go on and ride with them until. But it just really depends. Like Nets are a good one. I think the Thunder went on a nice streak for you find the teams and you kind of will get at least 4 or 5 out of them.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And when I look at from a fantasy perspective, I stay away from back-to-backs. I don't like back-to-backs, especially for certain teams. The older kind of players, it used to be the Kawhi Leonard rule and the Joel Embiid rule with the low management, right? It's pretty prevalent within the NBA nowadays. So I kind of stay away from that. But no, you're right. Listen, if you're going to ride the hot hand, John, it's basically what you do. You ride it until you can't ride it anymore, right? Yeah. I mean, so I've been riding. We've seen it in parlays with the Jimmy Butler triple-double train. I mean, he was like 5-6 games straight triple-double, right? So you ride it. Russell Westbrook has been right there. You just continue to ride it, right, John? I mean, when do you finally just say, do you get out before you lose, John? Or do you say, you know what, I'm going to ride until it bites me in the ass and then I'll get out?
No, I ride it.
I
I
like it.
ride it.
Yeah, you
It's
always
a
run.
yeah,
There you
yeah.
go. I
It's the
love
same
it.
There
thing. I
you
mean,
go.
guys on a hot streak, especially in daily, no, you hit with him once, and he's already put up back to back, good games. It's like, yeah, why would I take him out now? They got it rolling. So no, I won't stop that now.
I love the revenge game too, by the way. That's like, Russell Westbrook going back to Houston, or, I love the revenge game, especially that had a bad experience. They're pissed off, right? You just know that they're going to want to produce at a high level. So, which is great. Now, Anne has been on fire lately. And I'm not saying this, right, because it's to prop her up because she is the handicapping queen, which we are branding here right now tonight. We're going to work on that. But she's been on fire the last couple of days, and this is what happens. And we all know you go through peaks and valleys, and people. Here's what I will say before I'm going to get to Ann, because the Twitter trolls are always out and they're always trolls, right? So one day you have a bad day. It's like, God forbid, oh, she sucks, he sucks, he can't pick. Like, number one, it takes a bigger person to admit that they lost than people that just don't post when they lose. I can't stand that. Like, just be transparent. You're never gonna be perfect, but the difference is perfecting your craft and the research that people put in. You're always going to be 75 to 80% better than anybody else who's a beginner. So, Ann, with that being said, what has driven you to your hot streak lately? Has it been college? Has it been NHL? What have you kind of been driving home lately?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I am that handicap, and I'm not afraid to put my picks out there, put my record out there. You can see it's all documented, it's all online at pickdogs.com and sportschatplace.com. And I am out of 40 handicappers. I'm ranked, and I haven't checked the ranking since I won another game earlier. I could have moved. I'm always in the top 5 out of those
Oh.
40 handicappers on the site. I'm the only female. And again, like, I am not, I'm one, like, I show up the next day for work if I lose, I still can show my face on here. And, it's not either. Those are the type of things that when you're not running away, it gives me a lot of confidence, especially with my betting and my betting strategy. I know it because I wouldn't be where I was at. Our first one on the show here, I said 10 units on Nova. Then last week I said 5. We're still profitable 5 here, 5 units up. So, and if you guys want to start now, definitely, we'll get a bankroll going here, and I will keep track of my record on your show here.
I love it.
And we're going to see your audience, and, the other shows that I'm on, the audience, they always come out profitable with these are free picks. If you want my best picks, those are on the site. You can grab them. I have a couple people, they've been buying my college basketball package. It's all my picks for college basketball for the rest of the year. I lowered that price since, it's the last month. We're down to the last month. So I have a lot of people grabbing that. And you know what? Good thing they did, because I am right now in the last 5 days, March Madness, I am 7-1 with my premium picks.
Ooh.
So,
yeah.
And again, you can click on my name. It's all documented. I'm up over 700 units this week on Pick Dogs and Sports Chat. So if you've been following me for a week, I have a lot of people on my packages. They are profitable. I am also, again, I'm ranked number probably 4 or 5 right now. I'm on the site. So we are profitable for a year. You're not going to see that with a lot of these cappers on all different sites. And again, I have the guts and the balls to put my face out there. So
See, that's what it's all about. And that's what I love about it. Listen, there's a reason why this is called the heat ratios. What's that word? There's a reason why this is the fancy Firebox. If everybody knows, I got the name Jigsaw for being hot. And Nick's Crisco checking in right with the fire. Exactly. I love it. Own your shit, man. That's what it's all about. And that's what she does. So, that being said, let's get right into this, because we started this a couple weeks ago, what you said. And right now, I if I'm pretty sure you're 2-0. Right? The 2 picks you gave out.
So I'm one on. Well, there was a pick I think you had tweeted out for me a while back, but I wasn't on the show giving it out. So I would be 2-1 technically.
Okay, well there you go.
So tonight,
tonight we're gonna go 3-1. Okay,
right,
we're gonna go 3-1. So this is so let everybody know what you're thinking about tonight. And again, I preface this by saying everybody knows it's 7:35 right now. This game that Ann's gonna talk about is 2 hours out. You have 2 hours to get this in. Now, I will tell you, she's nice enough to give you this free bet. So go show her some love. Go to that pickdogs.com site. Go check out her profile. And if you're really serious about this, man, go get that premium package because she's telling you right now it's going to be profitable. So, Ann, what do you have for us tonight?
Yeah, so I've started looking at the Big 12 game here. And, I was telling you earlier before the show, I said, I really wanted to give you guys a nice free pick tonight. The problem is all the really good games. I'm 3-0 with my parlay right now today. The problem is all these awesome, great games that were already on. So I decided to go with the Big 12. This one everybody can watch. It's on ESPN. And that will be our Oklahoma Sooners over the Iowa State Cyclones. And there's just some, pretty much what it breaks down to is I looked at the some betting trends here as well as their record. And you have Iowa State, who's just terrible. They're 0-18. They're going to go 0-19 tonight in the Big East. And the last time Oklahoma played against these teams have already played twice against each other. Oklahoma won by 7. And then the second time they won by 10. So you see they get better and better every time as they play them. Iowa State, they've just been getting worse and worse. I mean, they're on over. I didn't count as much back as I should have, but they're well over a 6-7 game losing streak. And, they're just getting worse. And one thing I noticed differently is Iowa State tends to turn over the ball a lot, where Oklahoma is the complete opposite. So you have Oklahoma, who's putting up around 75 points per game, and you have Iowa State, who's putting up 65 points per game. And just overall, Oklahoma has much higher percentage at the field goal, at the assists, at the rebounds, in the steals. And really, what we could see from Iowa State is one thing is, why is this 11.5? Why are there so many points? Well, you have a guy, Rasir Bolton, who's sitting out tonight for Iowa State. I just checked it even before we started the show. He's still not going to play. I think this will be his 4th night out. And so you could see this is, things ending here for Iowa State tonight. So they might just put in some freshmen, play around a little bit to see who they like. And I think Oklahoma is going to run away with the game here. And, one more thing I had mentioned about the betting trends is you have Iowa State, who's 9-1, their last 9-1 against the spread, their last 10 Wednesday games. So that was like a big thing that stood out to me.
I love that.
So, one thing too, you got the Cyclones are 0-3-1 ATS in their last 4 overall games. And one more thing I found, they are just Iowa's 2-6 ATS their last 8 games versus a team with a winning straight up record. So I'm definitely going to lean towards Iowa State. And this is one thing you could get the live betting on. And if it goes down, if it drops in the beginning of the first minute, it's at 11. Grab it at 11. But I like this pick tonight, so we'll go with the Big 12 here.
I love it. And let me just say something and this is unbelievable information. And I'm not saying this as a hype guy. Listen, everybody knows, Mark Drumheller is on the stage as well. He does betting for breakfast. And I listen to him rattle off numbers for like Murray State. And here's Anne Shorr rattle off numbers for Iowa State. Listen, you just don't do that by accident. Okay. Right? It's just not like I can talk to you about UNC, but I can't talk to you about Murray State. I can't talk to you about Iowa State. I have no clue. I don't know what to call the Cyclones, right? So this is why I tell people, everybody thinks it's easy. Just throwing names in a hat, but when you can sit there, right, and you could just branch off at least 2 to 3 or 4 sentences of legit statistics and background information, that's how you know that you are the handicapping queen. I love it. I love it. Seriously, no disrespect to anybody else that wants to brand a name out there. We're branding it first right here. I love it. So Ann, I know you're busy, but freaking out of here. I got one question for you. So we got
no worries. And I was going to give out a small parlay tonight just for fun to throw $5 down on, just something fun.
We'll see how it parlay.
Yeah. Just because, again, like I said, you're going to go lower units on this bet tonight. All the great games were done earlier, but lower units tonight, I do like this pick. And, like I said, my best bet, I have one more game up on the site tonight you can buy. That's my best bet for tonight.
I love it. I love it. And again, everybody knows the information. I'll give that out in a second. Hey, here, I'm going to put you on the spot real fast. And so Adam Technically is a big
Yeah.
time follower of us. He just wants to know. We're not even. He says, "And who is your sleeper picks for the NCAA tournament?" You can just give. You can just give one. That's it. Just what's one team? Just say for you. You know all the stuff that you do. What would be one team that you think maybe? Hey, you might want to take a look at this team in the field of 64. Even though we know the brackets aren't set yet, obviously.
Yeah. So good. I know we talked a little bit about this last week. The opposite. I think it was the opposite
Yeah,
question.
I think it was.
Yeah.
We were talking about favorites, and now Adam's asking it out of
So
sleep.
I can't give out the winner this year. That is something that my season pass holders, they get that, they pay for that. But I can tell you, fade Michigan. We had fade Michigan State. We talked about that.
Yep.
And you guys, I hope everybody observed the Gonzaga and Baylor game last night, and there was just a lot of things in there as a handicapper that stood out to me, because you could see these teams, that we'll probably see them again. But one team I like is and I don't know if the Duke game played already. I'm trying to look that up now.
That's okay.
Bear with me. I got it.
It's all about
so they are winning right now. So I was going to tell you, I like Duke. I think they really have gone. It's been tough for them, but this is the type of year where they have that coaching. They, again, they have a good recruitment team. So I think this is going to be the time of year right now where we could see them start to do a little bit better and cover numbers. But as of right, go ahead.
I can't say Coach K. John's lame. I want to smack Coach K. Okay.
Yeah.
For when he beat my run in Rebels about 20 years ago. I'll never forgive him. That's all I got to say.
Oh, that's why not. He's a great coach. I mean,
he is.
I just see there's been so many games, over the past couple of years. It's like they're losing, they come back and they win. But I think, it's March Madness, so you're going to see those half shot courts. We were talking those shots from half court.
Yep.
And it's even if your team is down, there's a team that you have and they're down by 20 at halftime. You never underestimate them.
That's right. Coaching, we talked about that before. Coaching is very important in March Madness. But I am going to give you the royal exit here because you have, again, the earlier heat ratio here. You got more stuff going on tonight. You've had a long day. Again, we really, really appreciate you coming on. And everybody out there, again, give her a follow at Anne Shorr. The information is right there. Go check her premium picks off at pickdogs.com, at sportsalplays.com. All her records are apparent, and she's not afraid to tell you when she loses. And I absolutely love it. So, Anne, we thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening, okay? And we'll look for that Oklahoma Iowa State bet to hit.
John and Tony, it's always a pleasure, and thanks a lot for having me on the show. Good luck tonight.
Always. I look forward to next week and look forward to talking to you on Twitter. Talk to you.
Take care.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Love it. I love John. I absolutely love that. Like, talk about fire. Man. Like, she was just like, I don't care if I lose. I don't care if I'm on. I'd like literally like I absolutely love that. And for everybody out there, okay, here's the bet right here. You got 2 hours to put in now. Again, we call this the Fantasy Firebox with a sprinkle of sports gambling. And that being said, John, we have a big announcement right now. For everybody watching that tonight is the debut at 9:15. Tonight is the debut of Betting for Breakfast at Night. That's right. Mark Drummeller has got 2 new guys tonight, okay? And they're going to be breaking down the PGA Tour, okay? That big guy named Bryson, who's got the guns that only I wish I could have, okay? They're going to break that down tonight. So, yes, Betting for Breakfast not only is good in the morning, but also good at night. So tonight, we're going to get 2 shots of Betting for Breakfast a week now, and tonight's the debut episode of Betting for Breakfast at Night at 9 p.m. So just another show for the Fantasy Fire for the Heat Ratio Sports Network. But tonight, John, We're going to go all in. And I'm going to go right because I know this is your specialty. I know you talked to me. You got 2 weeks coming up to your fantasy baseball draft. And I know right now that you've already been in the lab, got a ton of shit going on, but I know you've still been doing the spreadsheets. And I came across this ESPN mock draft today. And I always do a bunch of research for the shows, figure out how we're going to produce them. We talk during the day. This is what we're going to look at. And as soon as I seen this, I said, you know what? It's all we need. This is all we need because the first thing I seen was the number one pick, and I said, wow, that's interesting. So if you go on YouTube right now, you hit that subscribe button, you will see the thumbnail that says who is your fantasy baseball number one consensus pick in a head-to-head total points league. Okay? So what I'm going to ask you, John, is I thought it was very interesting because in ESPN, it's Jacob deGrom. Now, do you go with the arm or do you go with the bat? So right off the bat, let's just talk about that. Do you go with an arm at number one or you go with a bat? We won't even talk about players, just actual positions. What do you think?
I've never been a guy to take a pitcher number one. I don't know. I just feel like there's not as much certainty. I mean, pitchers get injured. I mean, they can have a back strain and miss half of the season. And I feel like that's more prevalent in pitchers than it is hitters. All right. There are no guarantees, but I have more confidence in more batters getting 550 at bats. I'm talking in a normal stat year, getting 550 at bats year after year than pitching 220 innings. So it's, I don't know if I could take him there. I mean, I think that he definitely deserves discussion. You're talking a points league, and as I mentioned, I do a lot of roto leagues, but some of the same concepts still hold. The workloads are probably not going to be as large this year. The horses, I believe that there is going to be a larger gap between the horses and the field in terms of eating innings, piling up strikeouts and things like that. So I definitely have, my goal in all my teams is at least to get one of maybe the top 7 to 5 pitchers on my board. I got to do it. So you kind of weigh out, I know that, I kind of weigh out, how I model that. If I take deGrom early enough, you kind of lock that in, but I also feel that there's a top 5 hitting, grouping that is like, can really be in a discussion for first overall pick. I mean, in reality. So, I would rather chance it and take one of those top 5 hitters and take a pitcher from my top 6 pitchers, knowing that, any of those guys could at least compete. Look, I think deGrom's the best, but I just want to get those innings eaters, the guys that are just elite. I want one of those guys. So I'd be happy with the top pitching group of 5 and then take whichever pitcher falls.
Yeah, it's a good point. And you have to look at it from the fact of an overall depth chart perspective. Who are your top 10 pitchers? Who are your top 10 overall players? And what is the drop off from 3 to 7, in each particular position? Like what is it? And when I look at this first round, I'll just throw it out there right here, top 10 picks you had, and this is the ESPN mock draft by all their expert analysts. Number 1 is deGrom. Number 2 is Mookie Betts. Number 3, Juan Soto. Number 4, Garrett Cole. And we'll just stop at number 5, Ronald Acuna Jr. So right there, you have 2 pitchers out of the first 5 picks. And as we get lower, we'll get to the next 5. I can just tell you there's 1 out of 5 pitchers, or one pitcher out of 5 players. So you're talking 3 pitchers in the first round. Now, me personally, I'm in a DFS Honors League for Major League Baseball. And I can tell you what, you're only allowed to pick 2 pitchers. And you have to pick really, really legit pitchers. If your two pitchers do not win and give you 20 plus points, you will not win that week. You have to pick those guys. So pitchers are very important. I understand that too. You said the one thing though, John, you said innings eater. So let me ask you, when you look at the overall statistics and your projections for your analytics when it comes to the pitchers, do you look more at wins or do you look more at innings pitched? Like what are you more so looking at as, where you're going to put the guys on a ranking chart?
Well, that's a tough one. Wins are unpredictable. It's like touchdowns in the NFL.
I love that. Yes.
But it's exactly what it is. You can have guys that pitch lights out and just don't get the wins. You put up the WHIP, the ERA, and all the stats, strikeouts, line it all up, but the wins aren't there. So they're not as predictable. I mean, wasn't there years where Tim Lincecum won the Cy Young with like 15 wins or something?
Because the Giants
or I don't know. Somehow it was like, dude, all of his metrics were just like off the charts. I think it was him. I don't know. Bottom line, it's off the charts, but the wins weren't there. So, yes, I look more at the strikeouts. If you're getting a ton of strikeouts, the innings are probably there. So I'm really more of a strikeout guy. Even if it's an innings eater that in a typical year, and my brain over 20 plus years of baseball projections, I have my standards in my head. So I ain't going off of, 2020 or how many games they're playing this year. But I forget where I was going with that now. I just got so sidetracked.
That's okay.
In terms of yeah. So innings, yeah, I mean, it's a factor, but I don't want that guy that's, going to throw 120 strikeouts, even though he gets 180 innings. Like to me, those are turds. All right. I don't want none of them turds. Like, I mean, for the most part, sorry, but like Jamie Moyer was a turd. Okay. He may get your innings, but he was a turd. I'm not saying he didn't have a spectacular year and, can't say enough about what he did in Philly. But I mean, overall, fantasy wise, I mean, you got to call it what it is.
I love that. I do. I absolutely love that, man. Now, let me ask you this, and this is a good question. I think I'm not trying to stump you here, but just I'm just going to get your overall perspective. And I know that we talk about a number in football with running backs, and we talk about that 300 number. Has he had 300 or plus touches? And that, that's combined carries and catches. For a pitcher, obviously that number would be innings. So what is your inning number that you say, this guy last couple of years been really up there in inning, I expect a drop off this year. Do you have a number that you're looking at when you set that standard?
In terms of like a drop off?
Yeah, saying that, listen, we hear the word dead arm all the time in pitching, right? So in terms of, maybe this guy's averaged 200 plus whatever innings over the last 7 seasons. Like eventually I think his arm's going to freaking fall off. Like when do I fade that guy?
Really not until they get older and they have 5 straight years of wear on that. I mean, look at what Kershaw, and Scherzer and these guys were pitching, mad innings, but they did it year after year after year. So that's who they were. There are only a handful. Chris Sale before pre-injuries, you know what I mean? These were guys that did it year after year. Like 223 is like the norm, you know what I mean? Where like average, like you really want a guy, if you could get a guy with 200 innings, you're in good shape. These guys were averaging 220, 230, you know what I mean? 180 is kind of my limit line. Like 180 and above is what I consider like a solid workload. Once again, in a normal year, I don't think, we're going to have many fewer guys in those tiers for this year.
Yeah, listen, I'm already writing off 2020. I don't want a 50, 60 game sample size. I really don't. I don't care. Like, I'm just going to go legitly straight back to 2019. That's how I'm going to do most of my projections. Now, that being said, here's our buddy Nick checking in, and I like this conversation right here because I broke down a Manny Machado, Bryce Harper effect a couple days ago for the fantasy fix I do for you see the name right there for Fox Sports The Gambler, and I was very intrigued to find out that their numbers were eerily similar since they both signed their big money deal in 2019. Now, Nick says, is Harper a 1 this year? Now, when I looked at this, John, I will tell you, and I get your opinion here, that Bryce Harper was averaging an ADP of 16 overall, mind you. Now, you know how big I am on Bryce Harper. You know, I'm a Bryce Harper. I predicted he was going to have an MVP season last year. That was before COVID broke out and all that crap, right? And he started off with a bomb this year in spring training. Looks really good, looks strong, looks ready and primed. But to you, in your opinion, and when Nick says is Harper a number 1 this year, let's say this: could Bryce Harper, because obviously you draft 3 outfielders, could Bryce Harper be your OF1, just like your running back 1 in football? Could he be your OF1 this year?
Yes. Yes, he could be your OF1, but he is not a first round pick.
No. I agree with you there.
So I just wanted, because what I translated that to was a first round, not a number 1 outfielder.
Well, yeah, and it could be that.
Either way, so no, he's not a first round pick. Yes, I'm fine with him as a number 1 outfielder. I mean, look, there's a lot of guys that I like more than him, but the batting average was never really there. He had that 2 different years where he had batted well over 300. But that really never materialized. I mean, it seems like he's like a 270 hitter. I mean, that's who he is. He's going to hit 30 bombs or just like they're over. Is he ever going to get over 35 again? Or who knows? And he'll get 100 and 100 runs in ribbies. I mean, that's money in the bank. I mean, that's what you can guarantee. But, where does that warrant it? I mean, there's guys that are putting up much bigger stats, and that batting average, it may not matter as much in terms of points league, but in terms of a roto league, when these other guys are batting 300, I mean, that's 40 points difference. That's dragging you down in a category, so, and that's really, he's not a 5 category guy. He's like a 4, 3.5 category guy. Because what realistically do we think his stolen bases are going to be this year? I mean, how much is he really going to be running? I mean, he may get to 10. I mean, I don't know. I know he's, he had 13 and 15 the 2 prior years, but it chips in a little bit. But there's a lot of guys that I like better than him.
Yeah, listen, I love Bryce. I do. And it's interesting because we're going to start breaking down this draft a little bit. And I'm looking right here at round 2, and I'm looking at Manny Machado at 18th overall and Bryce Harper at 19th overall. So 2 guys right there. Now, right there, man. And they have been right neck and neck all offseason when it comes to rankings, no matter what site you go to, whether you do your own, depending on what system you use. But the consensus has been those 2 guys at those, umpteen numbers in that second round going head to head. So let me ask you before we get into this round, because there's one guy, that I want you to hit on, John, because I think he could be the most intriguing pick of the entire draft, and that's Christian Yelich. And I talked about firing away 2020 in the trash heap because it was a shit season. It was terrible. Nobody really paid attention, because of the pause and COVID and things of that nature. And guys were really not at their 100, at their best, no matter what. Listen, one thing I will say, COVID affects everybody differently. And, honestly, whether you get it or you don't, whether the mental aspect, the physical aspect, it all acts differently. So that being said, what is your opinion on Christian Yelich? Do you feel he can reclaim that Triple Crown MVP form, or do you think he really hit a wall last year and people kind of figured him out? What do you think it was with him?
I mean, it was a crazy time.
Yep.
You mentioned about you're just going to disregard 2020.
Yes.
I'm not necessarily going to disregard it, but I am heavily going to look at the track record of 2018 and 2019 more than 2020. But there are circumstances in terms of, guys that are getting older. So like someone that may, have advanced technically 2 years, if we're ignoring, 2020 data, that could have advanced up to 36 or 37. You know what I mean? There could be, an optical steeper decline if you're ignoring, the prior year. The other thing that I want to see is also, some of these young guys and these rookies and how they play. All right. It is a small sample size, but it's no different than a small sample size in the regular Major League Baseball season, 162 games. You know what I mean? These guys still get the opportunity to come up, put on display what they could do, and if they're successful, I mean, that shows a lot to their progression. So I will pay attention to that. But in terms of a guy having a slump and saying that he's done, because that's ultimately what it was. It was a 2-month sprint. Guys go through 2 months in the season. Who was the Yankees first base? Mark Teixeira.
Yeah.
That dude could not hit in April for the life of him. You know what I mean? McCutchen would always have, I forget what month it was. I don't know if it was April or May. There was a month he just stunk every single year. So it happens. So it's a 2-month period. So I don't put that much into what I believe is a slump. So I don't really look at 2020 from that standpoint.
No, I agree. I can give you that, and I remember Teixeira. I drafted him a couple times, and I don't care where it was, whether it was Texas, whether it was New York, whether it was Atlanta. It didn't matter. He had that MO, right? He definitely had that MO. So look at it. Let's break into this first round, and let's look at the bottom half of it, because we talked about the top 5, which for anybody who new listening right now is deGrom, Betts, Soto, Cole, and Acuna. That's your top 5. Your 6 to 10 is now Fernando Tatis Jr., who I absolutely love. Trey Turner, who I'm not sold on at that high. Freddie Freeman, Mike Trout, and Trevor Bauer. Now, John, just those 6 picks alone, or those 5 picks alone, from 6 to 10. Who, if any, are you surprised at? And who, if any, are you saying, you know what, I'm a fade down to the second round?
Bauer, definitely. I need to
at that.
I need to see more from Trevor Bauer. I know I don't have his stats right up in front of me, but look, last year he was pitching with Cincinnati, right?
Yep.
So pitching with Cincinnati last year, he's pitching against the NL Central, which was probably the worst division in baseball. All right. The Cubs weren't anything, the Brewers weren't anything. The Pirates stunk again. So he's pitching against basically minor leaguers, number one. All right. He does strike out a ton of guys. He seems like he's a reliable pitcher. The ratios in 2019 weren't all that great. He had a 4.4 ERA. So it's one of them guys. I haven't seen enough of him. He had one good year. Or one elite year with ratios. You know what I mean? You look at 2017, over 4 ERA, 1.37 WHIP. Then he had the great year, 2.21 ERA with a 1.09 WHIP. Okay, but then what's he doing in 2019? 4.4 ERA, 1.25 WHIP, which is middle of the road. So there ain't no way I'm taking this dude. Change of scenery. No way I'm taking this dude in the first round.
I agree 100%. I'm shocked Trevor Bauer is your number 10 pick in this right now, especially, and this is going to parlay right into our man Adam's question. I know it's very early. He's asking preseason World Series picks. The way I will answer that is with a guy here as at number 12, who my man Eric Parabell had taken at 12, who I think most certainly should be ahead of Trevor Bauer, and that is Yu Darvish. And that's who I'm going to tell you right now. I am all in on the San Diego Padres this year. So, Adam, I can tell you this. I'm going right now that I'm picking the San Diego Padres to go to the World Series in the National League. I'm not afraid of the Dodgers. I'm buying into the hype. I think that 100% that the San Diego Padres have more than a solid rotation. They go out and they get Blake Snell. They go out and they get Yu Darvish to add on with Lament and Paddock, who absolutely had a great year last year. And now your lineup, I mean, listen, you're still got, I keep saying this, but we talked about Machado. You talk about Tatis, right? Will Myers is batting like 7th on his team. Grisham had a great year last year. And I know we're throwing it out, but still with younger guys, like you said, you see some kind of development, it's completely different. So, John, what do you think about these San Diego Padres? Are you all in on this team? And who is, I know it's early, but would you say a World Series pick is for you?
I haven't even started thinking about it. I mean, Padres are definitely up there. That's going to be a fun team to watch. I mean, it's a lot of times it's tough to watch the West Coast games, at least for me on the East Coast. By that time of night, my attention span is, I'm wiped out. I got to go to bed, man. But the Padres I think they're going to be an exciting team. That rotation looks on paper great. Paddock, who was practically their number 1, now becomes their number 5, which is crazy. Insane. But with Tatis, I'm playing in an MVP level and other pieces. I mean, you got Will Myers and what's the other guy? I'm drawing a blank.
You got Grisham out there.
Yeah, Grisham's out there. Yeah. So I'm saying that, yes, I think they're going to have a really good team this year. They're going to be fun to watch. I hope they take down the Dodgers. So that would definitely be my dark horse. No question.
I hope they take down the Dodgers too. I'm tired. The Dodgers to me are like the New England Patriots of baseball. Like I'm just tired of them. Done. Right. I don't want to see them anymore. I'm done with it. Like, give me something new. And that's why I like how the Padres kind of went all in, man. I like how the Padres went all in this year. And they're going for it. And why not? You know what I mean?
You're not going to like it, but I want to see what the Mets got this year.
No, you know what, John?
I'll tell you what.
I keep saying, everybody calls me crazy. And John, you do sometimes too, right? But I'm telling you, I still think the NL East is the best and toughest division in baseball. It's not the NL West anymore. Okay, it's not the AL East. It is the NL East. I'm telling you, when you look at what the Mets are going to be able to do, I still think the Phillies, their over and under is 80.5, 80 and a half. They are 100% squashing that number. I'm predicting the Phillies will win anywhere between 86 and 89 games this year. Okay, and then you have the Washington Nationals, who are no slouch. They're going to be very, very good as well. And somehow, some way, the Marlins always become formidable. Somehow. I don't know, right? But I still think it's the best division in baseball. I do. And you're spot on. The Mets have the pitching, right? They had the pitching. And then they go out and get Lindor, which is going to be a great, attention grabber to their lineup. It really is. And you still have Alfonso out there. Listen, they have a really good team. It's going to be really hard for the Phillies to get to where they need to be, because they're going to need to win 88 or 89 games to get that division. So, you know what I mean?
This is what I'll call it now. Sleeper World Series. New York Mets, Anaheim Angels.
Ooh. Angels. Wow.
Picking a dark horse, man. Throw a couple bucks on it and let it ride, man.
I love it. I'll go Mets Padres. I'll go Mets Padres World Series. I'll tell you what.
They're both NL teams. You can't do that.
No, yeah, I know. I meant sleepers. I'm sorry for
I'm going one on each half.
You're going. Oh, okay. You're picking the full game.
Yeah. Well, there ain't no way it's going to happen. But yes, I'm picking my one from each side of the coin. So AL, NL.
Hey, you never know, man. You never know. And listen, don't sleep on the Cardinals in the NL too. That's all I'm going to say. They go out.
Adam Wainwright's here to save the day.
Yeah, I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. Adam says he's going all in Nationals versus Yankees. I hope not. I don't want to see the Yankees in there at all. But listen, Garrett Cole has something to say about that, right? He pitched phenomenal. So, they're definitely getting their ROI on him. But let's look at this. We got about 5-10 minutes left here on the show. Always fun talking this up. And
These rankings are
I know.
This is just terrible.
Well, here's the thing, and they're not even ranked. This is a mock draft, but
go ahead.
Sometimes I don't get it. I like. Here you go. Let's go round 2. It started off by Todd Zola. He takes Shane. Shane, don't call me Justin Bieber, right? So you Darvish at 12, Aaron Nola at 13. So right there, you're going Bieber or Baber, whatever you want to call him, Darvish, Nola, right in the bit. Boom, 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 11, 12, 13. And then you're going to open up with Jose Ramirez, Trevor Story, Christian Yelich, Cody Bellinger, then Manny Machado, Bryce Harper, Francisco Lindor. Now, I'm going to tell you what. I would put Lindor, I would put Harper, and I would put Machado a little bit higher. I would definitely. I'm not sold on Aaron Nola at 13. I'll give you the floor here, John, in this round. Okay, but for me, the one thing that sticks out in my head is Aaron Nola at 13. I just don't see him as because if you pick him at 13, he's your SP1. And I just don't think Aaron Nola can carry a fantasy team. That's just my opinion. I would much rather him be a 2 than a 1. So looking at these picks, 11 to 20, what sticks out in your mind for who is maybe overranked or maybe somebody that's not ranked high enough?
Yeah, Nola for sure. Is too high.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say before is I would like to just spend a couple minutes, not even a long time, but look at, Roto head to head, how the rankings are or what the ADPs are.
That's good.
Of the kind of more the lines, I'm going into the draft. So I'm thinking about where guys are going to slot. And I would guarantee you my draft is not going to look like this. You know what I mean?
I love it. Maybe
that sticks
we'll do that
out
next
to me.
week, man.
Yeah, that sticks out to me. I mean, truthfully, Harper may be a little bit high for my taste. I'm okay with I like Bellinger. Yelich should bounce back. I love Story. Jose Ramirez, hopefully he puts it all together again, but no Lindor there, so I don't know how much that's going to affect his numbers. But yeah, that group of pitchers, I would probably move a chunk of those hitters up.
Yes.
Bellinger, I like. He's a masher, but he ain't going to get you no stolen bases. Typically, I want guys in the first or second round, once again, Roto, but I like a little bit of each. Give me 30 home runs, give me 20 stolen bases. You know what I mean? If I could do that and have that as a building block, if I could pair up 2 of them, great, but I need to make sure I get one of those top 7 pitchers or whatever. But, and that's where draft slots, go. And you got to figure out where do you think these guys are going to actually fall. When is that pitching run going to start? Like deGrom's probably going to go 5, 6, 7. And then, shortly thereafter, you'll have, the next guy, Cole probably go like right there. Then there may be a 6, 7 pick low. Or maybe the guy at the turn at 12, 13 just says, you know what, I'm just going Darvish and Bieber. Which then throws a whole wrench into the plan. Now it's like, there's only like 2 or 3 of the elites that I wanted. So then I may just have to hold off and then go back-to-back round. But I need to have 2 pitchers at least by round 5.
I definitely like that strategy. Yes, you 100% need 2 pitchers by round 5 because if you wait, again, I understand that people say, "Oh, there's a ton of pitchers." Yeah, but there's really not elite pitchers. You need elite pitchers. That's what you needed. So you can't wait. You need to have them in your pocket by the time you hit that 4th or 5th round. You definitely need, because there's a big drop off. And then, there's a ton of middle of the road pitchers, tons of them. But you talk about elite, you got to have it. Now, Adam says Wheeler should be ahead of Nola. That's interesting, because Zach Wheeler did have a very, very good year last year. Very good year. And when you look at the Phillies as a whole, one of the guys, actually I could say 2, and we don't know, this is very, very early. We don't know what the rotation is going to be for the Philadelphia Phillies, but Spencer Howard could be a huge dark horse that you can get very, very late in drafts, that he could quite possibly anchor that staff at a number 4 or 5 spot. And if he's throwing heat like he is now and he has control, you know what? You never know. Another guy is Zach Eflin. I think both of those guys on that team could be sleeper pitchers. Now, what I will say is, to get away from the pitching aspect for a minute, because we're going to kind of round this up and finish this up. And I'm looking at, the third round, and I'm looking at some of these guys that go. But I want to just say this to you, John. I want to ask you a question.
Oh, hold on. Before you ask that,
Yeah,
I just want to chime in real quick with
Yeah.
the Spencer Howard piece.
Yeah, talk about that.
Well, here's my thoughts. I think they're going to really want to watch his innings. All right, with every, he's a young guy. I think they're going to want to watch his innings. I don't think he starts in the majors. All right, I really think that they're not going to have him. They got a lot of guys that they would like to keep at on their roster. Recently signed guys, a ton of guys in the bullpen to really turn that around. I really think that they're going to start him out in the minors, and I think he will show flashes of brilliance, but I don't think he's ready to be an anchor in the rotation. Look, that's not to say he couldn't dominate in the postseason game potentially, but full seat looking at fantasy full season, I don't think he's going to be quite there because he won't have enough innings up there.
That's a good point. He could be more of a streamlined starter. Could be more of a DFS guy, a low value guy, depending on what lineup.
Unless he gets on it, and he could get on a heater, and I'll jump on that heater. Like, you know what I mean? If you're sitting there in July and the dude's dealing, I'll pick him up. You know what I mean? I'd have no problems, and that's what I think it'll be. I think he'll be more of a fringe guy. He'll go on a couple runs. You know what I mean? But I don't. They may skip a start, or I think it's just going to be one of them headache things potentially. But when he pitches, I think he'll pitch decent.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I do. I think it's definitely going to be an innings watch with Spencer, and it's going to be a lot about how much he matures. I just have this weird feeling this year that this team is going to be a little bit better than people kind of are expecting. I don't think they're giving their rotation really much of a chance. And, I don't think Aaron Nola obviously is a 20-game winner, but I still think that between him and Wheeler at the top, you're at least going to win 30 games and maybe you could push for 35, depending if one of those guys catch lightning in a bottle, right? I'm not taking it out. And I'll tell you what I will say to Adam, as he talked about Wheeler, I almost guarantee I think Wheeler wins more games than Nola this year. And I do. And I could see Wheeler winning 17 games. I could see Aaron, or maybe even 18. I could see Aaron Nola winning at least 15 or 16. So, those two top guys I think will be very good. But what I wanted to ask you is about Mike Trout. And, we lived, and we'll finish this up on this because, you got me in this line of thinking when we talked about Mark Teixeira. And the reason why is I love looking back. I love going back in time. And, I do the DFS Weekly Sports Blend now every Sunday. This week, check it out. We're going to be talking about 1996, everything that's happened in 1996. So I want you guys who's watched this show, tweet me at TCatillo23 at Heat Ratio Sports. Let me know your top 1996 moment in sports. It could be friggin' cricket. I don't care. We're talking about it. Anything in 1996, because when we relive these things, we learn more. But I want to go back because I look at Mike Trout. And I look at him, obviously, in the first round, definitely belongs there on a good team in Anaheim. Him and Anthony Rendon back-to-back. I love it. But is there another player? Because, when we've been playing fantasy for a number of years, and we're going to show our age here, but who is that one guy, in your opinion, that should never have been falling out of the first round? Not to say he did, but just that one guy you knew every year. This guy was a top 5 pick every single year. There was no even, I'm not even going to look at it. Guy's top 5 pick. Obviously, until he, we got older, maybe aged a little bit or started to break down. But for an X amount of period, like for me, it was always A-Rod. A-Rod, say what you want about the steroids. I really don't give a shit about that. All I can tell you is I loved having A-Rod at that top position. He, for me, was always that number one or number two guy for, I don't know, John, I would think probably like 8 years. He really held on to that top spot for a long freaking time, man. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but was there another guy, in your opinion, that get sat up at that top spot for X amount of years that you knew no matter what was going to be there?
No, it's pushing my brain to think. I could barely think of. I mean, Griffey.
Griffey's a good one too. I don't think he stood the test of time that long. I think he was good about 5 years, maybe, and then right.
It was a little longer than that.
Pujols.
A-Rod was. I mean, he got a ton of stolen bases in his peak years.
Yes.
Alfonso Soria. I mean, you basically got to think about the 40-40 guys.
Yes.
Alfonso Soriano. I mean, even in reality, Cano was a beast.
Yes.
Miguel Tejada was a big one. Who was apparently he had something with his age that was all messed up.
He had the Jose Mesa rule.
Yeah. I don't know. Like he was supposedly he was 38, but I think he was actually 42 or something.
Adam says Barry Bonds.
Bonds.
Another name, right? Another name. Look, and it came in a little late. So Brian Cornell coming with Tejada. Yep, another great one. Adam says Ozzie Smith, not from a fantasy perspective. Ozzie really didn't give you much fantasy, in my opinion. But I'm trying to think of, listen, this is going back, but Todd Helton, Larry Walker.
Oh, I was all Bichette and Vinny Castillo too.
Yes,
all of them from the Rockies.
And Sheffield. How about Gary Sheffield?
Yeah.
Another guy, right? Now, I mean, well, think about that. I mean, these are guys that never came out of that top 10. Never came out of that top 10, man. I mean, they were that damn good. And then listen, Miguel Cabrera. Miggy had his heyday up there too, right?
Him and Pujols are sucking on Gatorade in the bench. At least that's where they belong. Just hire him as a coach. All right. Come on. Let's just end this now. All right.
Exactly. Oh, I completely agree with you. 100%. Completely agree. And again, Adam says Ichiro. That's another good one. Ichiro was a guy. He had the hits. He had the average of stolen bases. He did it all. He did it all.
Except for the dingers.
Yeah. Now, Brian checks in with a good name, man. Jim Thome. Maybe not too long though, but there was Thome was a very underrated fantasy player for probably a 4 or 5 year stretch, I would say, with Cleveland, and then a little bit in Philly.
Yep.
Right. And speaking of Cleveland, not to Manny Ramirez.
Yep. He's a good one. Yeah, I'm thinking back to the good old days, dude. I would always have Jeff Bagwell.
Oof.
Every year I got Jeff Bagwell. He would somehow slip to the third round, and it's I might just because I mean he was good, but there were flashier players, and the dude was just, I mean, diesel. You could bank on it every year. You know what he was going to do. He's hitting all 5 categories. That was the guy I always ended up with.
Adam says Ricky Henderson, another good one.
Speedster.
Yep. And when we talk about this isn't just guys who are mashers, like John would say. I mean, this is a guy, that quite possibly might not hit a lot of home runs, but steal a lot of bases, hit a lot of doubles, score a lot of runs. They're the kind of players that mean a lot on certain teams. Who was the guy, John, that was on Oakland and Arizona that for a 2-3 year sample size? Was it Eric Burns? Was it Burns? I can't remember the guy.
Burns was on those 2 teams. Yes.
Yeah, he had a couple really good fantasy years. When everybody started to question do juicing or not, who knows? But he did. He had a couple really good years. Brian says Rowland. Scott Rowland. He had some really good years.
I like them.
Yeah, he had some really good years.
David Cone.
Oh, there you go. Oh, not just with the Mets, but with the Yankees too.
Yes, yes. Well,
I
and
mean,
you know what? I'm going to throw out a name that I would say 80 to 90% of our audience will not know. Kevin Apier
yes, Kevin Apier from the Royals.
from the Royals. That dude was diesel. Dude,
Absolutely.
he would get it. He would get so many Ks, but he was like just under that elite. Like he's like the
Yep.
guy that's like, I ain't got to pay up for a number one. You know what I mean? But he would pitch lights out.
No, you're right. You're right. Well, another guy in the American League, and very underrated, was Michael Young. Michael Young, he hung up there to and Juan
Yes.
Gonzalez, right?
Yeah.
Juan Gon.
That's another big name.
Yeah, man. That's why I love looking back, man. Listen, no disrespect to the guys of today, but looking back at yesteryear, just remember the moments as we get older. I'll tell you, like I forgot all about like we did 2005 on the Sports Blend this past Sunday, and we talked about the Chicago White Sox, sweeping the series in 2000. I forgot the Chicago White Sox even won the damn World Series in 2005. Right? Jermaine Dye is the MVP. Paul Konerko. Like, I'm looking at these names like, right? Paul Konerko.
I had him every year as like my corner infielder. Paul Konerko.
Nobody
dude.
drafted him though, John. They slept on Konerko all the time.
He was always like the number 15th, first baseman, but dude's hitting 30 dingers.
Every year. Like, who's the guy now? He's a little older now, but Edwin Encarnacion.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Nobody looked at him ever.
Yep.
You knew we were going to get him. Adam says Mark Grace and Ryan Sandberg. Now, I'll tell you, I will say that that's a little before my fantasy day. Obviously, tremendous baseball players. I really wasn't in the fantasy aspect then, but I could see why, if I was that time, why they would be really good picks.
I remember playing fantasy at that time, but it was not a stat thing. Like I was so young at that time. I mean, it was a bunch of dudes just picking your favorite player. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It wasn't really, and there wasn't, I mean, what are we trading? Are we betting M&Ms here? Like, I mean, it ain't like we got money. All we got is is my buddy Melvin's grandma's front porch. You know what I mean? We got a magazine and a piece of paper. Yeah. That's it. What are you gonna do? Oh, let's sit here and talk baseball and draft a team.
Hey man, that's when the commissioner owned they owed their tips, man. That's when they earned them, because I remember I still remember like yesterday. I went to when I would go to the barber. The first thing when I would walk in, I'd see a big line. Like, why is this dude cutting any hair? Because he had the Daily News out going over the stats because he was the commissioner of his fantasy football league. There was no internet. There was no sites, right? He was hitting the hard box score right there on a Monday morning, man. Like, I mean, that was the heyday, man. That was the heyday. Brian says Biggio, another good pick.
Yeah. I may have a notebook with an entire season of manual scores in the attic. It may be there.
You got to break that out if you do, man. You got to break that out. Craig Biggio, Brian, is a good one.
Yeah,
I'll give you that. I was trying to think of somebody else before we roll here. There was somebody else on the tip of my tongue. It was a pitcher too that I was trying to remember that for a couple years was just lights
Santana.
Oh well, no, I mentioned him. Johan Santana to me was electric, absolutely electric. He's a guy that not enough people talk about.
I forget. Oh, good.
No, go ahead.
I forget what you were going to say before. I was ready to say El Duque.
Oh my God,
that dude! Maybe when we were talking about Tejada or something, or like the number 5 pitcher for the Phillies or something, I'm like, dude, you could always sign El Duque. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what. What about the man Mo, man, Mariano Rivera? I mean, you talk about closers in fantasy. I don't think you get any bigger than Mo.
Yep.
Yeah, he was there all the time. But again, listen, that's why I love when we look back, because it brings everything in perspective. You start remembering seasons that I want to start something on the page, on our Instagram page, on our our Facebook page. We'll do a little look back. Me and John used to do a thing called the Fantasy Firebox, and it was called the Battle Box every week, right? We would put one guy up against another guy, but I want to do some moments, get everybody talking a little bit. You know what I mean? Get some back in the day mode. We'll give everybody some stats. Doesn't have to be this is what the 1994. Who was the top outfielder? This is what he did. So, we're going to start doing that because I'm going to pick John's brain a little bit because I know he has all these stats. He probably has it on a spreadsheet somewhere.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
I just want to run through real quick, like the top 10 in a roto.
Yeah, let's go, man.
Because I want to get you. It's just funny how
how it's different from head to head.
I mean, there's basically a consensus top 5, ADP and rankings, and you're looking at Acuna, Betts, Tatis, Trout, and Soto. Those are not there, but deGrom. I mean, he's coming in. His average draft position puts him at 7. His rankings are at 6, basically. So you're really looking at those big 5 hitters, and then deGrom. All right, and then so Bieber and Cole are going much earlier, so they're still going in the first round. Same thing, like I said. You want to go and grab one of those elite pitchers if you can. So when you're at that back end and those top 5 hitters are gone, what do? Just like in a draft, football draft, top 4 picks are running backs. What do you do after the top 4 are at? You switch to receiver. Same type of concept. Your top guy, your top hitters, now you switch gears. You start drafting for that. But that allows some bargains like a Yelich, a Bellinger, a Jose Ramirez to fall a little bit further than maybe they should. But you're looking at those 5, then it goes to deGrom, and it scatters from there.
But a big difference. It is a big difference.
Yeah. So, but I mean, same concept holds true. You got to get one. You got to get one of them big pitchers, and I really want to come out of the first 2 rounds with one. If not, hopefully if I'm picking late in the first round, I'll be able to get it by the swing of the second. So I'll know that I'll have a pitcher. It gets to be tough if you're drafting early in the first round, you go hitter and you got to wait, and that maybe the top 7 are gone or whatever. Maybe it's 5 in, anyone's personal opinion, or maybe it's 8 or 9. But it's like now you're sitting here. It's like, all right, well, the guys that I wanted aren't there. What do? Might as well I love these 2 hitters. You know what I mean? It could be Harper and Machado sitting there, or you got or Aaron Nola. What do? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That could be the case. I mean, I could see the point if you really need Nola, but man, would Harper, Machado, and like a Mookie Betts look good?
Absolutely. I mean, think about that. 100%. I mean, it would look fantastic. It's just, you really have to hope that it is going to play out like that. And that, you definitely, absolutely have to hope it plays out like that. And you make a good point. Adam's second, and Adam, we're going to get to this next week because it is good. Adam wants to know what is the best closer to pick. So we haven't touched on closers, so we'll pick that. So next week we'll talk closers 100%. Brian says, "Have a good night, gentlemen. Glad I was able to catch some of the stream live. Keep up the good work. Love it, Brian, my man. Thank you so much again. What I will say to you is, if you have the opportunity, if you get Bang Us Out on YouTube, if you have a YouTube page, go to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification, because we have about 15, 16 shows now. We're going live all the time. So we really appreciate the support. Thanks for the kind words. But Adam, yes, we will talk about closers next week. I like that. And I will say, spot on right here, John. He throws another guy, Luis Gonzalez. There's a name for you. There's a great name. A great name, Adam. I love that name. He had probably, I would say, Arizona was his best, right? Arizona was his best years. He did really well out there. Very underrated. Not talked enough about. I could tell you that. But listen, we're going to get out of here. We went an hour 18. We tried to do hour 15. Went a little 3 minutes over. That's okay. It's all good. We got a lot of good stuff here. Next week, I really like where John's head was at. So I think next week, we're going to talk about a little general education first, a little breakdown between head-to-head versus roto. What's better? How does it differ, right? We're going to talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about best closers in the game right now and best fantasy closers of all time. We'll talk about that as well. Give us something, another topic for us to debate. But again, as always, we appreciate everybody's support, and I know we're like a revolving train around here, right? But that's kind of like what I envision as us as a network, to where certain guys can go on all different shows and kind of interchangeable parts, because we all have a great opinion on many different topics, and I want to get that out there as much as possible. I'm glad. John, welcome. The last 2 weeks been great. I'm glad he's back. I know it's sporadic, but things happen. We pick each other up, and we continue to move on. But John, I have to say though, man, before we go, think about it, man. It's like I think coming up, we're like a 4-year anniversary doing shows together.
How long?
Yes, it is.
I know. Well, the first ones were in mid-December. Was the very episode 1? I don't remember what year, but it was mid-December.
I think it was 2017. Because it was right before it. I'm pretty sure it was 2017, man. We came up with the name. We sat around and you go back and listen to that episode. It's like, it's brutal. The sound was horrendous, right? We had no idea what we were doing. Can you imagine if we were live back then instead of just podcasting? Oh my God. It would have been it would have been a train wreck. Absolutely. But as always, hey, listen, 200 plus episodes later, here we are. The ride's been fantastic, and it's just going to get better as the years come on. So again, for myself at Tcatillo23, for John Coker at PGHJohn36, check them out. Check me out. Check at Heat Ratio Sports. All the wonderful guys and girls that are doing big things here on this network. If you want to get involved, let us know. Already booked a wrestling bowling hit that we're going to do every couple weeks with one of the listeners. We just have so many fun things planned. So as we always say, number 1, hit the subscription button and notification button. Number 2, give us a follow on all socials. Number 3, make sure you hit up that podcast and subscribe to that as well. And number 4, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll catch you next week.